Hey everyone, today we are continuing our reading in the Gospel of John together. Today we're in chapter 2, part 1. Now today we're going to talk about one of the miracles that Jesus performed while he was here on earth. It is the first of 7 miracles that John records in his Gospel. And so this first miracle is Jesus turning water into wine at a wedding. Now, I want to encourage you to try to read this and take in everything that happened with new eyes today, because even as I read and studied it, some of the details became so much more powerful to me. So read it with new eyes today. So what do we know about this wedding? It took place 2 days after the previous event that John records, the calling of Philip and Nathanael. Now, we also know that Jesus and his disciples were invited to this wedding. They weren't just wedding crashers, they were invited to this wedding. And Mary, Jesus' mother, was also at this wedding too. And so let's read what happens. In verse 3, we read this. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, that's not our problem," Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." But his mother told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." So some important details about this event. Nothing beat a wedding party in Jewish culture in this time. These were the parties of all parties, and it was a way to show that you cared for your guests. So, in other words, a mistake like running out of wine would have been a huge mistake. It would have brought social dishonor on the wedding couple, this newly married couple, for quite possibly the rest of their life. So it was a big deal. Mary lets Jesus know that there is no more wine. He responds in a way that in our minds could seem a little bit harsh. He says, "Woman," but just to note here, it was a term of respect at this time. It was not something that was meant to be derogatory in any sense. And he responds, "Woman, my time has not yet come," as to say that the time for me to show that I'm the Savior of the world has not yet come. However, Jesus goes on, and we read in verse 6, "Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, 'Fill the jars with water.' When the jars had been filled, he said, 'Now dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies.' So the servants followed his instructions." Now I want to pause here and note the incredible faith of the servants. They had no idea who Jesus was, and yet they followed his instructions to a T. They filled these jars up with water, and this was no small feat either. John tells us that there were 6 of these jars, and each of them held 20 to 30 gallons of water each, and there were no faucets, there were no hoses to fill these jars up with. And yet they do it, and they fill these jars up to the brim. They believe Jesus that much that they filled them completely to the top. Now, what's more is that Jesus instructs them to take some of this liquid that for all they know is still water to the master of the feast. But the master of the feast says that this is the best wine of the evening, of the party. It's no longer water, it is now wine. Now, something that I was struck by as I read through and studied this passage again is that the only people who truly witnessed this miracle from start to finish were the servants. They saw that there was no more wine. Then they followed Jesus' instructions and filled the jars with water, and then they see the evidence of it changing from water to wine by the announcement of the master of the feast, who had no idea that this was all going on. And so no one else experienced it. And yes, others heard about this miracle and thus believed in Jesus, but no one else witnessed it. And I just thought that was an important and really cool detail to be reminded of, to see in new eyes, is that Jesus did this miracle for the servants. And then we read in verse 11 for the reason for this miracle. John says, "This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him." Now, Jesus is going to continue to reveal his glory so that others will come to know him. And Jesus is who he says he is, and we're going to continue to see him testifying to this truth in word and deed throughout his ministry on earth. And so something that I think that we can take home today is that Jesus is who he says he is. He is the performer of these miraculous signs. He is the Savior of the world, and he's going to continue to testify to that truth. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.